Good to have you join us again on our today's episode. And if you're just tuning in, this is Daybreak Africa on KAFTAN Television. I am Kareen Edet. On our today's discussion, we'll be considering tax reforms recommendations and implementation of fiscal policy. And we have an entrepreneur in the house in person of Idowu Akinola. Good to have you in the studio.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Daybreak Africa.
Oh, thanks for inviting me over.
It has been a while. It's great to have you once again.
It's really been a while.
Now, when it comes to Nigeria and economy, everyone has a say, and I think I would love to hear your say. What's your take as to our current situation, our current challenges, and the economic system generally in Nigeria currently?
Well, first let me say that our current situation has never been this bad. Currently now, we're in a very bad situation. And it's really going to take a very good and effective leadership to pull us out of this mess.
Well, actually, you're relating our mess. We are owing the mess to our leadership system.
Yes.
Okay.
Everything still boils down to leadership. You can't be the head of a family and not know how to fix your family.
Is it really a leadership problem? Because the same leaders were the same person that were actually elected by us, the masses. So is it really on them? Because these are the persons who actually elected. So how can it be their problem if they're not doing well? Shouldn't that be more like our responsibility or our fault?
Okay, so let's start from this argument that what is the function of a leader? That's how basically we can understand the fact that followers learn from the leader. So it's a basic saying that when you have a good head, then the whole body will move in that same tune of the head, because the head controls the body, right?
Yeah.
So if the head controls the body, it shows that a very sensible and sensitive leadership know how to control its followers. Now let me take an instance. Currently now we are all advised in court to cut down to size, right? Like, okay, Nigerian brace up, it's going to be a tough time. Fine. We are all bracing up. I know you've been bracing up because your journey from your house to this place is not going to be an error, just like before.
Yeah,
right now you have to pay more.
Yes.
And you have no choice. You still have to come to work, sing, be happy.
Yeah.
Now, the reason being is that there is a hope that after this turbulence time, something better is coming. But yet somewhere there, we have a few minority who are spending lavishly. For example, of recent, we all saw the news that the House of Assembly are planning to buy a vehicle of about 160 million naira each.
Yeah.
So, are they cutting down? That's why I said leadership. Such news would bring an uproar within the masses. That you're advising us to cut down, but you are buying a vehicle worth 160 million per member of the assembly. So, are you guys cutting down? Well, there was a report that shows that the president went for hunger meetings, right? And it was, be it allegedly, but there are proofs that they spent $500 million on the trip. For how many days? They joined less than 9 days. So are they really cutting down? Now, when I said effective leadership, you see, leadership dictates the tune of everything. You can't remove the fact that you have an upright, sensitive, I won't use the phrase righteous because no man is righteous in Nigeria, but a man who understands the tune of how things should be done. Like a man used to say, that once the head is not corrupt, then you can't be corrupt beneath. Because it makes you understand that if only the president can show signs that, yes, we are cutting down. For example, in the history of Nigeria, this is the fourth largest cabinet. About how many ministers we have now? 48, right?
Yes, indeed.
It's about 48.
Yes.
That's the largest in the history of Nigeria. So are we really cutting down? Okay, you want to say that you are creating more ministries. But funny enough, there are repetitions. Minister for Petroleum, Minister for State Petroleum, FCT Minister. You don't understand. When you observe those things, you're like, would there be need for most of these portfolios? Because now we are, I won't say nepotism, let's just use like cronyism is the order of the day. You are rewarding your people, fine, no problem, but not at the expense of the masses. So if you look at the trends of what things are actually being stated by the head, you understand that no, we're really in a deep mess.
Personally, I get tired when it comes to accusing our leaders. Personally, I get really real sick to my tummy. We tend to accuse the presidency, we tend to accuse our representative, we tend to accuse the senator for bad governance, for bad leadership, and what have you. But the truth is, these are the same persons we went to the police unit to vote for. So saying it's their fault or they should be held responsible or they're not cutting down costs is really, it's not exactly sensible to me. Like I said, to me. Because we voted President Bola Ahmed Tinubu into power.
Well,
we voted the senators.
Maybe you voted.
Nigerians, we voted. So
yes,
he's our
Nigerians,
president.
at least about
Yes.
8 point something million
So in this
Nigerians
case,
voted for him.
so I guess it's enough for me to say we. We did that.
Yeah.
Yes. So we voted him into power. We voted the House of Rep members. We voted the senators all into power. They came to us. They gave us their manifestos and whatever, and we chose to go for them. If we are not satisfied with their kind of leadership, in the next 3 and some months time, we will have a chance to really get them back off that seat and then bring in people we believe in. So really accusing leadership or people in leadership as our major issue is really not going that with me as a person. But it's good that we actually have a thought of what's actually happening in our economy, and then we're going to our topic for today. Now, considering the challenges we have in our economic this time, what's your take as to the fiscal reformation and our policy as taxation? How does it really affect Nigerians? How does it really affect our economy, considering the tax reformation and then our economic situation currently, or should I say challenge, rightfully?
The current tax reform, well, let me start by saying that Nigeria has never been bereft of ideas or policies. Our challenge is implementation. We've always have challenges implementing those ideas or those reforms. Now, the current reform by the president is more like trying to streamline our level of tax. Currently, we pay about 60 different taxes, both from the federal to the state to the local government. Well, maybe when we have to include the non-state actors, it's about 200 taxes, thereabouts, actually. But we are trying to model a model. Copy a model of South Africa. So to bring down the overall tax to about 10, thereabout. That's not a bad idea, actually. Because if you consider South Africa is about 59 point something million people. Let's even say 60 million people. And their tax last year, their generated tax last year was about $94 billion. That's huge. Of which personal income tax takes about 35.7%. So that's personal income tax.
Yeah.
So in Nigeria, we're about, give or take, 200 to 230 million people. And if you calculate the IGR from all states, last year alone was about $2.4 billion. And from the company income tax, you have about $3.5 billion, thereabout. So we're not even generating up to what we should generate. But this is where the challenges are. An average company who had the privilege to pay tax will always look for a means to cut down the payment.
Yeah.
Why? Because there are so many issues the company is actually battling with. So let me take grocery stores, for example. I'm much more familiar with that. Currently now, the level of inflation in the country is about 40 something percent, thereabout. That's the level of inflation we have currently. But do you know it's way much more than 40 something percent? Now I have my statistics why I can actually say that, because if you compare the price of commodities as of last year June to the price of commodities now, it's not 200%, right? Some are way much more than 200%.
Some may even say 250%.
Exactly. So if you calculate the level of increment in it, you see that the inflation is actually more than 44% being declared by the government. But these are the basic issues that we all face, from non-availability of forex to power. You know, power is a major sector that drives the economy.
Yes.
If you can fix power, then you can actually bring a massive improvement in the economy.
Yeah.
For example, give or take, let's say your station runs on diesel, let's just say about 100 liters per day. I'm just saying 100 liters. Now, how much is 100 liters? That's over 100,000 plus. Now, imagine if you have to run for 30 days. You spend 3 million. Or let's say you spend above 3 million on power alone. So now compare other industries that run on the same capacity of your power generation, maybe 60 kVA, maybe 30 kVA, that they have to constantly power the same manner. An average grocery store powers from morning till night due to maybe frozen foods or ease of shopping. And now imagine how much it takes to power those companies. Imagine a production company that produces maybe textile or whatever. Imagine how much it takes to power the companies. Now, if they have a means to declare their revenue at the end of the year, power would have taken so much more. So, government actually has an understanding of what is going on, and at the same time, they're trying to fix what is going on. But you know that at the same time, we have non-state actors who are performing wonders in their pockets in the tax reformation. Now, let me break it down. An average bike man pays tax daily. I hope you know.
Yes.
A pure water seller pays tax daily.
Yeah.
Not pure water seller, Ogar, who is hawking pure water, pay tax daily. If you get to that main market, you see people who pay tax daily, sometimes twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, depending on the kind of nature of the business. But are you too sure that all these taxes are being remitted to the state government? Or let's even say to the local government?
Yeah.
Because if you check those who are collecting the tax, they've used so much, I mean, they consume so much wealth, and you'll be wondering, this guy is just giving ticket to bike man. How did he get money to build his house? So that's why I said non-state actors have actually hijacked the process. So it's going to take a whole lot of effort for government, so to say, to actually reform the tax sector to get the generated revenue or the presumed revenue that they need to generate from those sectors. Because it's more than we want tax from you. It is more of we will give you this, we will give you this, but will you give us this? You understand? It's a policy that makes me understand that the only reason why I have to pay tax is because I will get this in return. Not that I will pay the tax and some sort of people will consume it. So that's the average mindset of an average Nigerian. Why they really don't pay tax? Number one. Number two, the institution has not been framed to actually get the real value of tax out of an average Nigerian. So it's not about the tax reform. It's about the implementation. How do you get the tax? Then what do you give back in returns? Those are the basic questions which you ask. The policy is not really saying so much. The only thing the policy said is let's streamline it down from about 60 to about 10, so that we can have 10 good source of getting tax and get something huge out of it. South Africa, for example, most of the tax generated from the $94 billion were through 3 sources: personal income tax, VAT, that's value added tax, and company income tax. That's all. But if you check the percentage, personal income tax alone was about 35.7%. So that's to tell you that people are joyful paying tax because they get dividends of it.
Yeah.
Payee, we have payee in Nigeria. From your salary, depending on how much, there is a percentage between 7 to 24% that government has to like take from the salary. Now that already has a structure that you know or you don't know about it. The money is being deducted and being paid directly to the government. But how do we evaluate the tax being paid by a bike man? How do we evaluate the tax being paid by a tomato seller? Do you understand my point? The institution that has been set up to get those tax is not working. So it's not as if the government is not really generating the tax. That's number one. Then number two, there's going to be a challenge. Distrust between the citizen and the institutions. So it's more like, okay, let's just say randomly we are paying tax, because I'm a taxpayer. I pay up to about 7 different taxes actually. Now let's just say that after paying all this, you now understand that your local government chairman, because we have local government tax, we have state, then we have the federal. So after paying all the tax, you now hear that the local government chairman just bought a car worth about 50 million. The next thing that will come to mind is, my tax money, I won't pay next year. You understand? We have so many people who are earning fine in Nigeria. Maybe through tech, maybe through whatever means, but they are earning well, but they are untaxed. They are not paying. And I hope you understand my point.
Yeah.
We have people who are making serious money monthly in Nigeria. They don't leave the corner of their rooms. And they make good money, but they're not paying tax. So you see, for the government to say want to streamline it, then widen the tax gap, see how we can bring everybody in and get the required tax, it's going to take more than just the reform, because the implementation process has to be holistic, bringing everybody in. So even if, okay, like one of the reforms, I realized that they were trying to tax the fruit, not the seed. Right?
Yes, I was going to that.
So if they want to tax the fruit, not the seed, how do you know the fruit is ripe?
Exactly.
Do you get the question now? Because the moment you establish a company, there are many things required for your growth to be visible. Well, I have always believed in a policy. The policy I believe in is always return every profit. You understand? Turnover. Once you make the profit, turn it over. See how well you can run the business within the next 4 or 5 years. Now, this is where I'm heading to. Will the government create room for, let me quote it, the seed to grow for 10 years before paying tax? Because actually the seed might even need more than 10 years to pick up.
Now, I'm talking about tax paid. The truth is, Nigerian tax system is one not free from criticism. You rightly mentioned just plenty, but I have just one question before I go into my next question. Our tax system, would you consider it more like the poorest tax system in the country or in Africa generally?
The poorest?
Yes.
Should we say it's the poorest? Will the poorest be the right phrase to use for our tax system?
I don't know, but you tend to more like glorify the tax system for South Africa and other part of the world. You make it seem as if ours has no structure whatsoever. So I tend to wonder, are we really running the poorest system when it comes to taxation?
Okay, let's say that, let's just come with the mindset that we are not getting many things right in this country.
Okay.
When I mean many things, I mean virtually everything. Our democracy is not as democratic as it should be. I know we all believe that. In a system where the court has to decide who wins the election, you can see it's really not democracy, because power belongs to the people, right?
Yeah.
So when I mean we're not getting many things right, I mean we're not getting things right. It could have been as a result of the 1999 Constitution, which defrauded Nigerians of many rights, or defrauded many sectors of many rights. But the truth is that we are not getting many things right, including the tax system. Company pay tax, fine. Last year, company tax was about 2.83 trillion. So that shows that company really pay tax. You understand my point? In fact, it was even way more than the IGR of all the states combined. So it's for you to understand the fact that people who are willing to do more, they are not empowered. Now let me break that statement down. It won't be bad if an average bike man knows that he's paying tax, but other conditions are quite favorable. For example, this same bike man who is paying tax today, he's still going to use the bike on tarred roads, and still service the bike probably at the end of the week. So that's why many of them will always look for a means to escape it. If you have ever observed, not the tax system alone is the poorest. We have many issues that we are battling with, so to say, that are really bringing us down. But we can just say tax. Okay, for example, now let's take crude oil exports, for example.
I think that would be a topic entirely on its own. But still on the issue on tax, we generally have an issue with data collection in this country. And they talk about using technology data for tax to expand tax nets. Now, considering our history with use of technology, how do you think we can actually use technology to actually collect data? I mean, appropriate and adequate data, and then have more like a modus operandi to really work on this.
Ordinarily, if you observe the trend to which the country is going, we've had, I think, about 3 different exercises where we have a large database of all Nigerians. NIM, identification, national identification number, BVAS, right?
Yeah.
Then I think what's the third one? Was it SIM registration?
And the truth is, when it comes to the issue of NIN and BVAS, not every person in the rural community tends to have NIN or even have a bank account. If we talk about
that's exactly where I'm going to.
Okay.
That's exactly my point. So if that does not capture the entirety of Nigerians, can that be a technology, in the real sense of it, that will also capture the entirety of taxpayer? Because now let me link it down. For some companies, you have to tender your tax identification number before you can get any reasonable grant on loan.
True.
That's how many of them are even paying tax. Now imagine if you have a company that does not really need to get loan, or you don't need, somewhere there you assume that you don't need the tax identification number, so that you always evade tax because people don't even know that your company exists in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, every company is meant to register with CAC, Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, virtually all companies, or let's say virtually all sensible companies are registered, or let's say virtually 80% of the companies are registered. In fact, CAC is even expecting you to pay a token amount at the end of the year for your registration. Personally, I've seen many people who are not even paid in years. And the funny thing is that if you don't pay, CAC will fold up the company name, then someone else can register the same name. Now, as much as there are policies, like I said earlier, implementation will always be a challenge. How are we going to introduce technology to enforce tax payment? Currently in Lagos, something is working about the way zero safety, I think road safety, in conjunction with Federal Inland Revenue Service, are operating as regards defaulters. So for example now, there are places you should not park. But if you park, a camera will snap. In fact, the camera will record, number one, then snap your number plate, send it to their database. Before less than a week, you will receive email as regards your payment. You park at so place. They will send you the video. Then they will tell you to pay so amount, and you have no choice. Now that is technology working in that perspective. But how do we introduce technology to capture, so to say, all taxpayer? You belong to that category. Yours might be different. I belong to that category. Mine might be different because I run several companies here. So I know I have to pay income tax, but who is even going to rate how much I generate at the end of the year? Because I don't have auditor. I audit myself. So that's why I said that there are a lot of issues that we are facing that might not actually make those policies to be effective. If we have a working environment, I mean functioning environment, we would all be pleased to, will I say, identify ourselves with the government and say, oh, for what we've seen so far, this is what I'm doing. Okay, for example now, imagine if government says there's a grant for all business owners, regardless of where you are, even if you are inside the poorest of the poorest community, just come and state your kind of business. What is your kind of business? Okay, my kind of business is I'm selling tomato or I'm planting tomato for export and I need grant. Okay, with what we've seen, you can actually register here, use this number. Now you have, by your wisdom, get the data of most underground companies who will eventually register with the government, get a team, then you now give them the grant. By that, you've catch up their data already.
Yeah.
You have a database of, okay, there is a tomato inside Luyetu farm, tomato farm inside Luyetu farm. We know you should be paying his tax. It won't be hard for tax officers to get there. Do you get my point? Yes. But there is nothing that is actually integrating most of the small and medium enterprises into the system. Virtually nothing. So how do you get tax from them? You assign a tax officer to walk around and collect tax from them. They will come and bargain. They will get their cut. Only few will get to the government. Do you now see how the system works? Yeah. It doesn't really make sense.
Okay, so now speaking of fiscal policy, I want to ask, what's the goal of fiscal policy in controlling government revenue in Nigeria?
In controlling government revenue?
Yeah.
Well, most of the policy is just to, fiscal policies are meant for three things. Collection, management, and disbursement. Nothing else. So when they bring a policy, the policy is, okay, how do we collect this data and the tax? Then how do we really manage it? Then from there, how will we now disperse it? Okay, Ondo State generated about maybe 20-something billion. Lagos is always about 600-something billion. Rivers is about 120-something billion. You understand? So now we've been able to get the data of what they are generating. We've been able to get the exact amount of what they generate, and now how do we now disperse it? So from there, you now see that there are states like Kebbi who are generating less than 10 billion. Then you want to compare 10 billion to 650 billion. You understand?
Yeah.
So most of these policies are just to monitor the collection of the data or the taxes, management of the taxes, and disposal of the taxes. So currently now, if you remember last from 2021, 2022, there is a lawsuit on VAT, value added tax, by Rivers State and Lagos State against Federal Inland Revenue Service, that they want to be collecting their own tax, personal income tax and VAT. And Federal Inland Service was like, no, you can't do that. We have to take it to court to resolve it. Court granted them permission to take the tax. They have to go and appeal again. So it's a process that, if you understand how deep we are, you realize that there is a need for us to decentralize everything, including the government.
Now, it was said that the report will bring about the digitalization of Nigeria FX regime and discourage speculative demands and hoarding of FX in cash. Now, the truth is, we spoke to an economist some time ago, and he said the Nigerian market tend to move with speculation. The moment they heard this is about to rise or this is about to go into extinction or there's going to be scarcity on this, the next day it's all haywire. Just like when it was announced as to subsidy, the next day everything went all haywire. So I tend to wonder, how could this actually tend to curb the issue of speculative demand and then FX holding in cash?
I would like to say that FX is a trouble on its own that the government cannot even manage. The only means to which it generates
a trouble the government cannot manage.
That's what I'm going to break down.
Okay.
The only means to which we generate forex so far is either through crude oil sales or remittance from diaspora. That's a little way. We have very little in exports. As I said, it's a trouble that the government cannot manage. Currently now, our foreign reserve is almost empty. I hope you know. So can the government manage that? What basically helps Naira to gain weight is how much more you have in your foreign reserve. Because if you have so much in your foreign reserve, you don't really need to devalue your Naira. That's the basic point. So that's why I said the government cannot manage it. You won't be sure if dollar enters 2,000. It's going there. I'm not a prophet of doom, but these are just basic issues that we really have to be conscious of. it's obvious that currently now, banks cannot give dollar. I hope you know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Banks cannot give dollar. We are still left to the parallel market.
Yeah.
The abokis,
Yes.
brew the change to get our dollar. So if the government is saying, oh, at this junction we want to float the naira and float the dollar, let them both react to the market. What is even the market in the first place? What is market forces? You want dollar, I want dollar. I want to import, you want to import. We have to go to just one aboki. Okay, how much do you have? I have $10,000. How much can I buy it? 1,000. No. I can't buy for 1,000. Oh, you know, you came and said, don't worry, give me for 1,200, I'll buy it. That's market forces. Nothing else. Reacting to high demand, low supply. There's never been high supply, low demand. And I don't think there will always be.
Okay, so I mean they've been, because I think our time is
almost out of time,
yes. So there is this saying that this tax of restructuring the tax system in Nigeria cannot be done in the court, but by sitting with stakeholders and deliberating on how to approach this issue. What's your take on that?
Well, the only way forward, I'll say it again, decentralize everything. You see, when you talk about stakeholders, like I said, we've always had lovely ideas, brilliant reforms. We've always had. After Yaradua died, there was a policy we were supposed to take on board. We had all stakeholders who came to a room, had a deliberation of way forward, right? Has it been implemented up to today? No. So you see, when we come up with the mindset that these issues cannot be resolved in court, but stakeholders have to come on board. Yes, we'll come on board, we'll talk about it, but yes, some non-state actors will still hijack the process. It has always been, it will always be.
You know, I actually tend to wonder when it comes to tax reformation, is it the first thing we should actually hit on, or maybe there are other factors, you know, we could actually put in place first before jumping into
brilliant.
Tax reformations?
Before you treat headache, you have to see the symptoms and be sure it is directly headache.
Yes.
Then you have to go exactly for the prescriptions, the drug. Before we talk about tax, have we ever thought about how to boost the economy? Who owns the economy? Small and medium scale enterprises. Nothing else. Forget it. Anywhere in the world, they own the economy. They direct the economy. An average Igbo guy selling electronics in Odo 2 or in a Yanopaja or in the Alaba International Market is controlling the affairs of those areas. You understand my point?
Yeah.
Small and medium scale enterprises controls the economy. So how do we help them? How do we boost their performance? If we can boost their performance, then we can get tax from them. They will be happy to pay. So I have, for example, now, I was saying to a friend, I said, at this junction, I think government should look into decentralizing power. My supermarket is running on solar. I know how much I spent. The powers are freezers and powers basic things, and I still need to spend more because we have more chillers. Now, that has saved us a great deal, because at the stage we're spending about 18,000 naira every day on fuel. So that's about 180k at the end of 10 days, and about 400 plus, almost 500 at the end of 1 month. How much are we really making? We have salaries to pay, we have tax to pay. So I'm saying that if government can offer policies that would actually help boost their economy, for example, power. Do you know that federal government as a whole can partner with renewable energy owners like solar installers, mega companies, to say, okay, for this household or for this business owner, we'll give you grant. This grant is meant for power. How much power do you need? Okay, it's 5 kVA, it's 10 kVA. This is the size of the power you need. This is how much you're supposed to pay. Now we'll spread it over to 10 years or to 15 years. You keep paying back. That alone has resolved a great deal. When I mean small and medium, these are businesses that don't really need so much power. Like, for example, a tailor who runs tailoring doesn't need up to 2 kVA. A barber shop who runs, you can conveniently get tax from these people, and they will be you know, it's one thing to say I'm happy with my wife because she did they expected.
Okay.
It's not to say, oh, no, you messed up, don't even greet me. You understand what I'm trying to say? As much as family can resolve their issue, government as well can resolve their issues.
All right, thank you once again for joining us at
Thank
Daybreak
you
Africa.
so much.
Not to
speak there.
I knew for a fact we have plenty to talk about, but time has always been a constant on this show. So we hope to really have a part B of this particular discussion.
I'm hoping
some other time.
Yeah, sure.
All right, you heard it all. And the truth is, I really believe that this present administration has actually been working so hard, trying to put it in order. Because from the day of inauguration or the inauguration day, he started coming up with policies, talking about subsidies, and now we're talking about reformations and so many others. Now, they say it doesn't take a day to build Rome. They say so. I think it's more like a process, and at some point, I think as citizens and Nigerians, we just try to trust this process and hope for the very best. Now, at this point, heading you over to Lagos Studio, we'll have so much more for you. I remain Ezekiel Ogar.
And until next time, I'm Kareen Edet.